Hey guys, so it's been a year and I didn't think I'd be doing this, but we are back talking about the circle with a brand new season. And with that, we'll be doing a power ranking, ranking each of the players in the game based on how lucky they are to win the game. And so far, the season has been largely what you would expect out of the circle, with a lot of over the top people and a lot of cliffhangers. And they literally end this week without any eliminations, which is pretty stupid, but that's the circle for you. But there are 9 people to talk about, and let's waste no more time. Let's go right into the video. So starting off at number 9, the person I believe is the least lucky to win the season from this point on is Caress, also known as Paul. Now for a lot of the week, really the last 2 episodes, I was expecting Paul to be the boot here over Stephie, as even though there's been a lot of focus on people like lean towards Stephie being the AI player, I do think it was a bit of a misdirect there, though obviously we don't exactly know who the boot is yet, but we'll find out soon enough. But even if Paul survives this next eviction, I don't really see her as a very likely winner, as I feel like she's been playing pretty mediocrely so far, where you already have people suspecting her of being a catfish, and even beyond that, like she's kind of gotten herself into trouble. She's like the secondary target coming into this blocking. And you also have her like not doing the best in some of the games, where during the rap night she ended up dropping hints that the guys were working together, and despite her wanting the guys to work together, it's already falling apart for her. And even beyond that, she was last place in the first ratings, and I just don't really see how she does well moving forward, and I don't feel like the show's really backing her up that much, which is why she's here number 9. Now moving on to number 8, we have the other person currently on the block, and here we have Stephie. And Stephie is another player that hasn't played that well. Now to her credit, she did get 3rd place in the first ratings, which is pretty good. But beyond that, she's had some pretty questionable play, like the fact that she had this group session with everyone where she was doing yoga with them. At the same time, like she would throw shade at people during the games, particularly against Paul. And obviously the fact that people think she is an AI player, which is pretty silly there. Like, kind of shows like how she's not really integrating as well as people would think. So Stephie's another one that I don't think she's going to do particularly well even if she survives this next round, and there's still a chance that she could be home next, which is why she's here number 8. Now moving on to number 7, and we have another person that's not really in a great spot at this point, but we do have Kyle. Now, Kyle did get 4th place in the first ratings, which I guess is something you can point to, and he also has this Guys Alliance, but at the same time, that's an alliance that's already crumbling, and I don't think he's going to come out of this round in a particularly good spot, where obviously he's been tossed around as a potential target. People like Olivia see him as the AI player, but even if he's not the boot himself, he obviously could lose Paul, who is one of his closest allies there, which is obviously pretty bad. And realistically, I just don't think he's in a necessarily good spot right now, which makes me feel like he's not going to be primed to do well moving forward, which is why I have him here at number 7. Now moving on to number 6, and we probably have the person who has the quietest edit right now, and that person is Cassie. Now, Cassie's kind of weird in the sense that despite her being this seemingly big character, she hasn't really gotten that much screen time at the end of the day. And yes, while we have seen her like bond with people like Olivia, for instance, and they have been able to build this counter alliance to this Guys Alliance, but at the same time, she's still not in the greatest position in the world, where she was tied for 5th in the first ratings. And while I think she'll probably do better at the next ratings, I feel like the fact that she's pretty under edited on the show makes me feel like she's probably not going to win by the end of it, though you never truly know with the circle. I mean, the circle's kind of a weird show edit wise, but for now I do have her here number 6. Now moving on to number 5, and we have a player that's kind of weird to talk about, and that person is Max, who is the AI player of the season. Now I think Max is a tough player to assess, considering his presence is kind of a gimmick on the show, where the show has been giving him a lot of screen time because he's this AI player, and the show's going out of its way to explain all of his calculations and stuff. Now I think it's kind of hard to gauge how authentic a lot of this is, considering that it's possible that Max could have this big advantage through seeing like what everyone else is thinking. You also have the fact that this may not be AI at all, that it's just a big gimmick. So I think from a pure game standpoint, it's kind of hard to really see how AI Max is. But also, I think Max is probably not likely to win. I feel like while he has been getting a lot of screen time, I think a lot of it's because he is like the main gimmick of the season, and naturally he would be getting all the screen time. It's kind of hard to gauge where he truly stands from a game standpoint, and while we haven't really seen people being suspicious of him being an AI player yet, I feel like it's still relatively early on, and I feel like a lot of his game position has not really been tested yet. So I think it's kind of hard to gauge where Max truly stands in the game, which is why I have him here at number 5. Now moving on to number 4, and we have someone who probably could be in it for a while, but I don't feel like they're the top contender in my eyes, and that person is Miles. Now, Miles, in a lot of ways, reminds me of this player that kind of has a rough start, but later rebounds. Where early on we see him not really getting on the best foot, where he ends up like making some questionable decisions in the first game, like him being the only one to say he unfriends someone who was canceled and someone who wouldn't keep a secret if their friend cheated on them. And obviously that leads to him being relatively low on the first ratings, literally being tied for fifth. But we see him being able to rebound, where he's able to build a good relationship with a lot of the guys, being able to build a good relationship with QT, and he's able to be named the most human, which essentially makes him the influencer coming to this round. And obviously that gives him a lot of screen time there, where he has to choose between Paul and Stephie. Now, again, if I had to predict, I think he will probably block Paul, but you never truly know. And realistically, it's probably better for his game to keep Stephie around anyway. Now, regarding his trajectory, I could see him being a big character on the season. I could see him like having a bit of a run later on where it becomes like a big influencer in the game, but probably not someone who will be likely to win by the end of it. I could see him kind of flaming out at the end. But I feel like considering his start so far, I feel like he could definitely be in it for a bit, which is why I have him here number 4. Now moving on to number 3, and we have someone who I very much think of when I think of this player with a slow start but picks up quickly, and that person is Brandon, also known as Olivia. Now, based on the first episode, it did seem like Olivia was going to have like this slow start where they were going to do really poorly in the first ratings. And we do see that initially where people do start to suspect him of being a catfish, but he's able to rebound. He's able to build some pretty good bonds right off the bat. And we do later see him being first in the first ratings, though obviously that doesn't really amount to much there. But moving forward, we do see Olivia continue to navigate through the game, being able to build this girls alliance, and we later see him try to convince Miles to keep Stephie around over Paul. Now, whether that'll be successful or not, we'll have to see. My hunch is yes, but I don't think it's entirely secure yet. But I feel like Olivia is someone who definitely will be like this fan favorite type of figure, someone who will probably be having a lot of influence over the course of the game. It's just a question over whether he'll actually be the winner by the end of it. I have my doubts, but I feel like compared to Miles, I probably have more faith in Olivia to later pull out a win compared to Miles, which is why I have him here at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, and kind of like Max, I feel like this person's probably in a decent spot right now, but I feel like it hasn't fully been tested yet, and that person is QT. Now, I think Cutie's a bit of an interesting figure as she does seem well liked in the circle, and from what we've seen so far, she hasn't really gotten any negativity. It seems like a lot of her interactions have been pretty positive, and we literally see Kyle rating her second on the human like rating. But beyond that, she hasn't been part of a proper rating yet, and considering that the human rating only showed the top result, it's hard to truly gauge how well she did across that. Though obviously we'll see that later on, like if she were to like get to an actual rating here. But I do suspect that QT will do pretty well moving forward. It does seem like she's pretty well liked. It does seem like she at least is shown having a solid head on her shoulders, but we haven't really seen that be fully tested yet. But I feel like it's the fact that we haven't seen her being tested yet is a big reason why I have her lower, but I could very well see her moving up to the top spot depending on how the next week goes, which is why she's here at number 2. And now, at number 1, the person I believe is the most likely to win the Circle Season 6 right now is Lauren. Now, I did question this to a degree, as I do question whether Lauren's truly getting a positive edit or not. I kind of find it hard to tell at this point, but I do feel like so far she has been shown being in a solid spot where she was second on the first ratings. She was an influencer there. And obviously now we see her working alongside Olivia to try to get the target off Stephie's back. And again, we'll have to see whether that truly pans out or not. But I feel like considering that we at least have some proof of her game up to this point, of her literally being second on the first ratings, and if she is able to get out Paul, I do feel like that'll be pretty positive for her game, considering Paul is one of the big people gunning for her at that point. But I feel like the fact that she at least has this potential to move up moving forward is a big reason why I have her this high this week. Though at the same time, I could also see her going down, where obviously if she's able to convince Miles to take out Paul over Stephie, I could see that having reverberations across the game to where people could try to pin this target onto Lauren, considering she is one of the more outspoken people in wanting to keep Stephie over Paul when most of the people in the circle want to take out Stephie instead. I could see that being a target on her back, though. considering that she also has Olivia on her side. I do feel like that could be spun in a positive way edit wise. So I think for now I'll have her around number 1, even though I could see her going down depending on how this next week goes. But for now I do have her here number 1. And there we go, that'll do it for this week's video. If you like this content, be sure to like and subscribe, really helps out the channel. I'll be back again next week to update the Power Rankings again, so looking forward to that. I'm covering other shows right now, including Big Brother Canada 12, Survivor 46, and The Amazing Race 36, so you can expect weekly Power Rankings of those shows. I'm on Patreon, so if you want to consider supporting the channel, you can do so by clicking the link in the description, and you can also join the Discord server by also clicking the link in the description. There's a lot of stuff coming your way, but for now, that is the video. See ya.